Huddle Up podcast. It is August 23rd, 2023. We have made it. I know we missed some time this summer. My bad. I'll foot the blame on it. I'm the host. I'll foot the blame. We lost some time this offseason, but we're here nonetheless. The final in the offseason program. We have made it to the end. We will be back live starting next week. So get ready for that. Look to our social media at Huddle Up Podcast for broadcast info, all of that information. So make sure you are following us on all of our social media. Make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube channel because we are live there each and every week as well. Make sure you're subscribed on all podcast platforms so you do not miss anything. If you do not catch a live broadcast, check our merchandise store over at tpublic.com. And yeah, I think that does it for all of the business stuff. Let's start going around the room, and we'll start on the screen below me, and we'll work around. My brother Shawn. Shawn, how we doing?
Oh, we're doing great. We're doing great. Ready to discuss some sports. Just kind of hanging out down here in the tropics, keeping the South busy.
Great. Isn't it great? Matt, how we doing?
Doing well. I'm looking forward to hearing EJ relive the sad moments from his fandom. Especially, I hope we set aside an hour for his NFL teams that have lost the big games since he's going to go through all 30 of them.
Yeah, thank you, Don.
He does have to pick one. That's
way out of line.
That's the challenge there. I'm telling you.
You kid.
Which
Mikey B
was the hardest.
Yes.
Mikey B. How we doing, bud?
Oh, hey there. We're good. Excited to be back talking about the sports and all that fun stuff. Looking forward to this one. We get to relive some happy times and some sad times.
Absolutely. Student of the game, Kyle Nash. How we doing?
Honored, joy, and privilege, gentlemen. As much as we're going to be talking about losses on this episode, it's only fair that I'm alongside of EJ Christian.
What I do today?
Sounds like your loss.
Yeah, we've actually, if we're talking about which loss
I don't
in our
even know either of
history,
you, really.
no, you know what? I'm not even going to say it. That's going to be too much.
But it was a good joke.
Wow.
EJ Christian, now that we've kicked you around enough to start the show, and we'll keep doing it. How are you doing, my friend?
Barely breathing after that fucking intro. Jesus. God.
Oh,
no, I'm good. I'm well.
You beat your ass up for so long.
Yeah, I know. No, real talk. I'm excited about football. We can wait.
Good evening, Apollo Creed.
Live
We
show.
are Ivan Drago.
Yeah, I'm excited with the season, yo. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm ready to go, man. Football has been gone for too long. College football and the NFL have been gone for too long.
Thank you.
Kyle Nash.
Shout out to Kyle, of course.
I don't want to disrespect Kyle and all the work that he does on all the places he does that work.
I was about to say, you're talking about missing episodes. I'm like, what is this missing episode stuff? Have you not been to the Huddle Up Podcast YouTube page?
That's right, Kyle, keeping that thing alive in the off season. But the topic tonight, I think we did something similar to close out the off-season program last year.
Mm-hmm.
But this one is one I put on the agenda sheet, and I wanted to close out the off-season program with this one because it's pretty fun. Because we're soon going to be talking about real wins and losses, and predicting those things beginning next week live. But if you could change one loss in your favorite team's history, what game, or I guess what series as well, if you want to talk about a series in the sports that have those, but I kept mine to specific games. But what game or series would it be? And we will start with football. We will end with football, and we'll go through the other sports in between. We will start in college football. And EJ Christian, we'll start with you. What Florida State loss would you avenge?
There's many, but the one that still sits in my craw is the 96 Fiesta Bowl against the Gators, because we beat them 3 weeks before that, and then they blew us out in the Fiesta Bowl for the title in the championship game. So, Fiesta Bowl 96 would be the one I would take back in a heartbeat.
And now you're an inferior team in the state of Florida.
I mean,
I'm also an inferior team in the state of Florida. as far as inferior and superior things in the state of Florida go, I am low on the list.
Well, wait, fuck Danny Werfel.
Wow, at least we're not holding
Motherfucker.
any grudges.
Wow, I'm not even a Florida State fan, and I can get behind that.
Yeah, here we go.
That's actually probably not wrong.
I'm fine with that.
Student of the game, Kyle Nash. I guess I need to ask you what team, specifically, if it's a team you covered or what have you. But
I mean, yes, if we were going, full slate, I would obviously say the corrected loss of Willis McGahee's Miami Hurricanes and that trash that was the OSU handling of it would be the best for mankind. However, for me, selfishly, who covered the UCF Knights for the black and gold banneret, I would personally like to see the UCF Fiesta Bowl have turned into a win. Can you imagine the national narrative had UCF had 2 seasons in a row in a New Year's Six bowl topple an SEC team? And oh, by the way, Joey Bah being the guy that was toppled in question, Justin Jefferson still technically an LSU Tiger, right? Can you imagine how much ACC morons like FSU fans, for example, would have to try their talker way out of the BS that is them being inferior to the American Athletic Conference? It's funny. With UCF's ascension to the Big 12, they still question things in their past. And since then, UCF has also beaten Florida in a bowl game in the Gasparilla Bowl here the past 2 years. But I say all of the above to say, I think the credibility of UCF in the national conversation would have been far more defensible. And just, I think there's a lot of things that would guys have transferred that did. Would Josh Heupel have left? Would he have had the same success there? The answer to all those questions is yes, because in the American Athletic Conference, they couldn't have afforded to outbid the SEC, but still.
that's fair. So maybe Josh Heupel's the loss that you would change, right?
Not really. His time was done at UCF, and to his credit, he utilized the superior resources, and I think had a better defensive staff in Tennessee than he did at UCF. But the point is well made, nonetheless. So, yeah.
All right, Mikey B, what college football loss are you avenging for your favorite team?
I mean, I would agree with Kyle about the Willis McGahee Ohio State travesty. But I will homer this one up.
Homer.
Take me back to the 2014 FCS quarterfinals. Coastal Carolina goes into North Dakota State, loses to the number 2 nationally ranked team in the nation, 39-32. South Dakota State just happens to mollywop Sam Houston State in the semis and then wins the national title a couple weeks later at Toyota Stadium in Frisco. So it's one of those where Coastal, now being new to the bowl games and stuff like that, obviously probably don't expect them to win a ton of bowl games these first couple of years. So I'll go to one that hurts a little bit more because that was a Coastal team that was a lot of fun to watch play, especially live. I was in South Carolina really at that time. So, it was they went 12-2, 4-1 in conference. Obviously, nobody really cares because it's Coastal Carolina. But, I believe that was the year. I'm trying to remember who the quarterback was for that team. So I'll let somebody else go and I'll figure that out.
Well, these three are going to be the same subject matter, but finding which one we actually go to, and it may honestly it could be the same answer for all three. But Matt, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I'm going to go before we got into the playoff with Notre Dame. I'm going to go back to 2012 and take that undefeated season and make it a true undefeated season and give them the win over Bama in the national championship game. Just because if I'm changing the outcomes in any of the playoff games, I'm not entirely sure they even win the next game anyway. So give me the one that actually gives them the national championship. Because it was a fun season. We had the third year of Brian Kelly, so it was a whole third time's the charm with every Notre Dame coach that's won, and it was a fun storyline until the game started, and then it got out pretty quick.
Kyle, if you mention 3 overtimes versus Pitt, I'm kicking you out of this.
I was going to say the correct answer should be that Pitt wins that game, and then you're not embarrassed in that national championship game where you had no business being there.
That's not the topic of the show.
I know it's
Kyle,
not, but you brought it up. They had no business being there. Sorry, Irish, handle the truth. You can't. I'm just saying.
Fuck you, buddy.
Where's Nathan R. Jessup? I'm just throwing it out.
Okay, so that game clearly crossed my mind for a lot of the same reasons. But I feel like there's no wish. If I had 3 wishes from a genie and I wish to have won that game, the genie would be like, you don't have enough wishes. And I'd be like, okay, fair enough. I'm going to go with kind of a pick that doesn't guarantee me anything. And it was a no-brainer. As soon as I saw this topic, I was like, 1993 Boston College. It's not even close.
Ooh.
Like it's literally like you just came off. Like it was to the time was the
Who'd they beat the week before, Shawn?
the biggest covered game of all time, and it was an era where 1 didn't play 2 very often. It wasn't like they set up a playoff where like 1
Who was
gets
number
to
1
play
the week
2.
before.
Florida State was
Someone in your conference, right, Jim?
and we
No
beat
conference,
Florida
Kyle.
State. And I'd like to remind you, at the end of the season, the national champion was Florida State, and the second place team. You will always have to remember that that's the only team that beat you. But for me, if you get through Boston, there's no other team they're going to stack you up because it wouldn't have been against Florida State again.
No,
It's not the way it worked out then. You would have wound up with a much different opponent, probably an easier opponent, and that would have been there's a reason why that game was a loss, and it's because they already had played their championship game, and they won it. And I will never forget Shawn Wooden knocking that pass down, and I will never forget the elation of winning against Florida State. I wrote 3 papers about that game in college, in different college classes. I'd like to throw that out there. I won't tell you.
Here's the thing: if you're
to get through Boston College the next week, I think you settle down, and Lou Holtz gets a chance to game plan against a good team and probably a lesser coached team, and that's a national title.
If you're Notre Dame, because in the bowl season you were number 4, you beat number 7 Texas A&M in the Cotton Bowl. The Orange Bowl, Florida State beat Nebraska number 1 versus number 2 in the Orange Bowl. So you
probably would have faced Nebraska. Maybe
you probably would have faced Nebraska. I think again, a fantasy booking from when I was 8 years old, so it's hard to totally put the pieces together. But you're probably going to win that game. But yeah, for me,
a fun sell though. Was that Tom Osborne at the time?
Yeah, had to have been.
So it had been Tom Osborne versus Lou Holtz.
Yeah, Osborne.
Imagine what a championship would have done there for Lou Holtz's legacy.
That was Nebraska's. That was Nebraska's only loss that year.
That would have been two titles in 5 years for Lou Holtz, and all of a sudden his legacy is much larger. It would have been a larger legacy to crush.
He probably doesn't get forced out in 96. Just saying. Yeah. He doesn't get forced out in 96, and then history completely changed.
But that was a no-brainer for me.
That game is actually my runner-up. And the game that Matt picked is actually my number 1. And again, Kyle, don't shake your head at me. That we're fantasy booking here, jackass.
You just shouldn't have been there. I'm sorry.
Look, name me another undefeated team. There wasn't one.
You didn't. You got to skip a conference championship game. You got to run and hide like you always do.
Okay, talk to the computers. Be my guest. It's fine.
They can hear me.
Notre Dame was undefeated. Nobody else was undefeated. I'm not saying they.
I want to go back to that schedule. I'm not going to do it right now, but I would like to go back to the schedule and see if any of the teams we played that year were in their conference championship game. I bet at least 2 of them were. I bet 2 of them
probably was.
Oklahoma
probably was. But
you're talking about teams that made their conference championship game that we already beat that year, because we play all these nonsense conferences. It's like the independent gets a lot of crap for not having to have a national championship or a conference championship game, but at the same time, you kind of, especially at the time, still got to play an out of conference schedule, and so you wind up playing teams from all these conferences. You get like a USC, and you get and you have all these rivalries that are good teams. Michigan every year at that point, I think still, it's like, I don't know. I just feel like
I don't know how good Michigan was back then.
I just feel like
Stanford
those teams
was pretty solid that year.
Their conference title game also get 6 games against the bottom of the conference.
Well, I mean, you're making a very eloquent argument about the schedule we're not looking at right now. But I mean,
I'm not. And I don't 100% remember it.
Right?
But
No,
the fact
I'm
that
not,
you
I'm not
said
saying we
Pitt,
can talk
the
trash.
fact that Pitt should have beat us tells
Stanford
me that our
went.
schedule
Stanford
was
went to
pretty
the Pac-12 championship. Oklahoma went
I'm
to.
sorry. Wait a minute. Wait, Pac-12. What now?
I mean,
I didn't hear
you're
what you said.
Kyle, you're talking about conference championships.
No,
Right.
I'm talking about
We're
teams
talking
that
about
made it
teams.
to a
We're talking
conference
about
title
teams
game.
that we beat that year
Who
that
was
made their conference title
Stanford.
game.
Stanford made it to
Stanford,
the Pac-12 and won the Pac-12.
Okay.
I actually don't have Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship that year. Actually,
Did
But
Pitt
it's a
make
team
the
that could've
ACC
been.
championship? I'm just checking.
That's a good team.
no, they did not,
No, they did not.
and that's fine. Again, I'm not.
But Oklahoma's a championship game caliber team in that
Again,
year.
I'm not sitting here saying that Notre Dame belonged in the national title game. I have said that for years.
Then I have no gripe.
Right. I have said that for years. My point is they got there because they were the only team that was 12-0 at the end of the season.
All I know is I was supposed to meet you at the start of the game, and I got held up at work, and I showed up 20 minutes
Sean's
late,
fault.
and it was
already over.
It was like 21-0.
And it was already over.
It wasn't close.
But again, they were the only undefeated team, and you're not going to keep an undefeated Notre Dame team out of a national title game.
No.
It's just not going to happen.
No. Why would
It's
you?
not going to happen. So if I can change one loss, it's that one. Give me that win. Give me the title. The thing I've heard my entire life, I was 3 the last time they won a national title, and all I've heard is how Notre Dame doesn't belong.
That year they didn't. The other
If they
years
change
probably
my vote,
did.
I'd like to
if you
lose
can
to
give me
Florida
if you
State
can give me
so
a
that I
loss
can
that I can
Bama.
change, give me that one. You beat Alabama, you beat Nick Saban, you get a national title. That one's easy for me.
I'd like to change my vote. I'd like to lose to Florida State and then walk through Boston College, but have Florida State then have the letdown.
and then Notre Dame ends up
We
winning.
get to walk through
Notre
Nebraska
Dame
in the
ends up
national
winning the
title.
national title over.
So the Florida State has to look up and be like, "But we beat you."
Yeah, actually, that would
That's
be.
what I
That
would
would be
like.
much
But that would require me to change probably 2 games, including one that never happened.
All right. We move on to Kyle's favorite sport, baseball. Major League Baseball. Shawn, we will start with you. What game? And I mean, you can go series. But what are you changing?
Yeah, like I like in college football and even the NFL, it's easy to go with games that aren't in a title series. For the Phillies, there's only so many you could do. I mean, the correct answer is probably Joe Carter and the in the early '90s.
93.
But for me, it's a chance to go back to back against the New York Yankees with arguably the best pitching staff ever assembled, and somehow we overplayed our hand. I don't know. I still to this day I'm like, if there was ever a reason beyond just F the Yankees to say F the Yankees, it's the fact that we lost that series, and it is nice knowing that our first World Series, the 2008 World Series, was against the Rays. That's the one thing I hold living here in the Tampa area, here in St. Pete, is that I will always have that. And now I have a sweep this year against the Rays. That was really nice to go to 2 games of. But anyway, yeah, for me, it's that Yankees series, 2009. That would have just really set Charlie Manuel apart. Like it really made people appreciate what Charlie Manuel was to the team and to the game, and having the Harry Kalas patch on for that series was like even more sentimental season, and if we could have won that for Harry Kalas and like have just taken that staff and somehow kept most of it together instead of just starting to like dismantle things after that, and like things kind of fell apart. I feel like you really could have tried to make a run and win, 3 out of 4, 3 out of 5 would have been really cool. But yeah, we leveraged a lot of our future on that season, and I think to have a second one there would have been really.
By the way, the Preston and Steve show in Philly have had Charlie Manuel numerous times.
But yeah, Joe Carter probably.
I could listen to Charlie Manuel just
Charlie Manuel, he's
like read an almanac of baseball names. Like the guy has one of the most like soothing voices in the entire world.
And it's hard to decipher at times, but it's still beautiful.
It's glorious.
It's like
Matt,
a drunk uncle telling you a story at bedtime.
yeah, exactly.
I like that.
Matt, same question, obviously, with
I do
the
not
Phillies.
condone all drunk uncles telling stories at bedtime.
Sean, you're being a drunk uncle right now. Shut up. Matt.
All right, I'll mute myself. All right.
Yeah, keep talking. Just mute yourself. Matt, go ahead with yours.
Yeah, it's not a bad pick from Shawn, and that was one that I considered Game 6 of that World Series. If the Phillies win that and they force a Game 7, you have Cliff Lee on the mound against likely AJ Burnett, who hadn't figured out the Phillies that season. They probably win back-to-back, like Shawn was saying. And I contemplated this past season, if Phillies win Game 5, go up 3-1 against the Astros, they likely win one of those last 3 when you have Wheeler and Nola pitching again at some point. But for me, I went to 2011, the initial series against the Cardinals. That's when the Phillies had their murderer's row of the starting pitching staff. When you had Oswalt, you had Halladay, you had Lee, you had Hamels, and somehow they won the first 2, and then they lost 3 in a row with those pitching staff. So if you give me Game 5 win against the Cardinals in that series, Howard doesn't tear his ACL likely. His career is probably fine, and then you go running right through what the Cardinals ran through to get their World Series title, and I think the Phillies do it with ease because of that pitching staff they had. They had 4 aces in their rotation, and they probably likely take down the Giants in the next round, and they win the World Series, and they get Roy Halladay the World Series ring that I think he deserved in his career too. So give me the 2011. And that was the wild card round, but I think if they win that round, they tear through the rest of the opponents. Yeah,
that's fair. Mikey B.
I guess I'll take the cop out here as the Red Sox fan. There are a couple of different answers I could go with here. Obviously, Buckner. That's an easy one. As is the 2003 Game 7 with Aaron fucking Boone.
Aaron fucking Boone, man.
Or Bucky fucking Dent.
I say, isn't there that movie with Jimmy Fallon and Drew Barrymore where they run down all of these?
They run down every painful memory.
So the thing is, obviously, wasn't alive for Bucky Dent. Wasn't alive for the 86 Buckner situation. 2003 hurt, but I don't know that we were beating that Florida team.
Good point.
So I'm going to go with something that ended up leading to where we are today. It is the series loss in 2021 against the Houston Astros. Chris Sale pitched his ass off. Hasn't been the same since. Xander Bogaerts, you win that, and you get to the World Series, potentially win that World Series, win another one. Xander's getting signed for however much money Xander wants. Now he's in Slam Diego. Devers is the face of the team. You probably potentially try to find a way to bring back Kyle Schwarber, a guy who was loved in that clubhouse. Instead, you lose. You look in the mirror and you go, maybe we blow this up. Maybe this is the time where we nuke.
All right.
Sorry to interrupt. That Marlins team, that was the Bartman incident too, right?
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure. Because I know what game Cubs fans would.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we found the answer for any Cubs fans out there. Which, by the way, again, Cubs fans, that isn't the reason you lost that series, just for the record. But anyway, student of the game, Kyle Nash.
Jack Wagon over here goes in and takes the Bartman incident off the table, and I was going to grace the baseball gods in and of itself of having to endure that trash because, to Jim's point, the Cubs melted down anyway. Maybe, their minds weren't right after having it stolen. Hey, you know what? If you're that bad at your job, you deserve to lose. I'm sorry. And you can call me a homer.
Right, exactly.
But I don't follow baseball. I'm not a Marlin fan. And hey, listen, the Trop, was it even built? I don't know. But the punchline is this. I had a number 2 in mind, and knowing that EJ Christian alleges to be a Mets fan, he can come up with a better one himself. You got to put the Buckner incident too, just for the general cause. Listen, Bartman's been made into a tragedy, and undeservedly so. He interfered with the game. He deserves the hype. Maybe not death threats, but he definitely deserves to be ridiculed for the rest of his life. However, Buckner, oh God.
Can
Can I also say that I don't think there was a shot in hell that Moises Alou was catching that
I
ball?
was just gonna say Moises Alou does not catch that ball.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not Ken Griffey Jr. That's all I'm saying, dog.
Ken Griffey Jr. played center field.
But he still could have made the play.
He still would have had a better chance.
I think he could have made the play though.
Still
I mean, he could have ran from center and had a better shot than Moises Alou.
It's true.
Yeah.
This guy
It's a
EJ.
Yeah, being a Met fan, of course, is like a laundry list of heartbreak, a laundry list of things to pick
allegedly.
from. 2015 World Series is up there, but to me, the one that stands out the most, I still look at as the toughest loss I ever experienced as a Met fan. 2006 NLCS Game 7 against the Cardinals, the Ende Chavez catch, and we still lose that game. That roster was so good. Pitching staff was good. The hitters were great. I think we would have won that World Series this year too. Also,
Tell Carlos Beltran to swing the bat.
yeah, looking.
I mean,
looking, man.
Honestly, I feel like 15 was your best chance to actually win one. With that,
I thought Casey was good. Casey was good.
Though. But the Phillies lost to the Yankees. Wasn't Ryan Howard looking? Like I feel like it was Ryan Howard looking.
The last out was a ground out to second base. Victorino grounded out to second base to end that series.
I'm not doubting Mike.
I mean, EJ, if the Mets beat the Padres last year, you guys probably go to the World Series.
I don't know. I think that 06 team was so good though.
All right. For me, I go back to game 1 of the 96 ALCS, and this is the Jeffrey Meyer incident in New York, because the Orioles probably win that game if Meyer doesn't catch that ball illegally, mind you. And then the Orioles did win game 2, both of those being in New York. And you come back to Baltimore up 2-0 on the Yankees. I think there's a realistic chance you win that series. You get to the World Series, then anything can happen. But that and then, I mean, I know the Orioles got back to the divisional round the following year, but then it all fell apart for a very long time. So I've always resented game 1 of that.
Like I say, the next year, weren't they pretty close to beating the Indians team that went to the World Series too?
Yeah, they were. So yeah, like those, either of those two teams, I think had a shot if they could have just gotten past. But that Cleveland team obviously really, really good. I think
that
if
Cleveland
you get
team
past the Yankees,
stacked, man. If you look at that roster they had, it's like
unreal.
Hall of Famers 1 through 9 on that roster.
Yeah, it was sick. The other one I was debating on for this one was the 2016 wild card playing game versus Toronto. And that was more selfish because I was in Toronto during the World Series and it just caused the traffic of me getting through the city a fucking nightmare. So if the Orioles could have avoided that for me, it would have been nice.
For the record, Ryan Howard striking out looking was the following year in the NLCS Game 6 against the New York Giants or the San Francisco Giants. Yeah, runners on first and second down 1 run, and it was knee high.
Yeah, man, you can't go down looking. You can't go down looking.
Just didn't even try.
Swing above the ball. Just do something. Don't watch it.
For a guy that struck out swinging for most of his season.
At least 200 times a season.
All right, next one we go to the NBA. EJ, we'll start with you.
Jeez. When I started here, fucking 2011. I mean, that's one. To me, yeah. To me,
I need to walk. I may be back before this is done, but I got a crying toddler. I gotta go.
I salute you, man. The one I go back to all the time, honestly, is that was it 98? It was 98. 98 against the Knicks, Game 5, the first round of the playoffs. The Allen Houston bounce. Oh, 99. So I was 99. I apologize. 99. First round. Right. Because Jordan at that point retired, so the East is wide open.
Okay.
East is wide open. This is the shortened year, lockout year. Anybody could have won. The Heat with 1 seed that year. Knicks went to the finals that year as an 8 seed. And they lost the first round to the Knicks in 5, which back then was a 5-game set in the first round.
Okay.
So, yeah, that one still fucking bugs me though to this day.
Which they should go back to.
Yeah, honestly, I don't hate that idea either.
I mean, if you're giving us a mid-season tournament every year, then shorten the first fucking round, alien-looking dickhead.
Wow.
Tell me how you feel about Adam Silver, man.
Joe Buck yourself.
No, that's the close second real quick though was the 05 East Conference Finals lost to Detroit. The year before won the title.
Okay. All right. Student of the game, Kyle Nash.
You know, in my youth, I was a Suns fan, so obviously the answer would be Paxson for 3, not going Paxson for 3. However, since I'm in sports that I don't have a team, we are typically going sports I'm going to cover, and maybe I'm doing a little teaser for what may be for the future. I would be a fool not to turn away. Thank you, Jim. I would be a fool not to turn the damn sweep here locally against the Houston Rockets into a proper championship, at least appearance, let alone sweep. So yeah, that would be the direction I would go. 4 bricks would be 4 points for the Magic by Nick Anderson, and it would be a much better life for a revered guy in the community.
Mm-hmm. That was a mental fuck. That was a mental loss for you guys. After game 1, that was it. Oh my god.
All right, there you go. Mikey B.
I'll keep this one relatively simple. Obvious answer would have been just this past season. But I'm going to turn back the clock to 2012. Game 6, where LeBron goes for 45 and 15 and eats the soul out of the fucking TD Garden.
No.
Because not only did that end their season, because there was no way they were winning Game 7 after that performance, that was the end of the Big Three.
Mm-hmm.
That was now we have to rebuild. It was fun while it lasted. Here is back to being a 500 team until you can rebuild properly.
I would say that worked out pretty well for you, though, Mikey.
Yeah. Good job, Danny Ainge.
I mean, it hasn't been bad, but it also hasn't been the crowning moment that you
breaking up the Big Three got you Tatum and Brown. So how mad can you be?
Oh, I'm not, but Celtic fans are really mad that Jaylen Brown is stupid rich. But I digress.
Stupid rich.
So at this point, that game from LeBron and no matter what they did, no matter who they put on defensively, no matter where he was shooting from, the guy wasn't missing. So it's one of those where it's like you kind of almost have to tip your cap. Honorable mention, not last year, the year before, losing Game 6 to the Warriors for their title. I was in Boston that day. I went to a Red Sox game. I was standing on top of the Green Monster, and I told myself, get me on a plane, because if the Celtics lose and I'm still at this airport, they may burn this mother to the ground. My plane was delayed 5 hours. The game ended as it was final boarding for flight 2174 to Miami, and I was like, get me out of here.
I remember this too. You would text me like so pissed off that night too.
Y'all seen that scene, Air Force One in Independence Day with the fire behind it? Like I feel
that's kind of what was happening.
This fucker was big mad that night.
that game was more frustrating than anything else.
Right.
All right, Matt, how about you?
Yeah, before I start, shout out to Jaylen Brown. Let me hold 500,000 since you're making 61 million a year now.
Stupid rich.
But for me, and EJ probably knows this is the obvious answer, 2019 Game 7 Sixers versus the Raptors. The Game 7 bounce from Kawhi. If that shot doesn't go in, Sixers go into overtime, probably win, and then they face the depleted Bucks team. They face a Warriors team with no Clay and eventually with no Durant, and they are probably hoisting the title. And EJ is probably not as happy as a Heat fan right now because Jimmy Butler probably stays in Philadelphia after winning the ring there. So,
Timothy Butler.
Give me Game 7 turnaround the results all day in that 2019 series.
Oh, yeah, I'm convinced they win that series. They win the title that year. Given what we know now in hindsight with KD being out for that series against Toronto, they win the title that year.
Giannis was fine, but I want to say Holiday was hampered that series and Middleton was hampered that series. So, I mean, they likely beat the Bucks that round.
Okay.
Middleton's lack of performance that year, if I remember correctly, was really what hurt them.
That too, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, actually, it would be on the Beyond the Buzzer podcast with Danny Thompson, I believe, that I pointed out. It doesn't exist anymore, but thank you, Jim. That
Take that ding back.
it was a ceremonial ding.
Yo,
yeah.
did it.
Now I got to talk about the Denver Broncos, probably. No, no, but
the Denver Broncos.
there it is. Yeah, no. But yeah, I made the comment about not Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton being on a milk carton. If he shows up, they start winning. Lo and behold, that happens. They win titles, and I sound super smart and prove that EJ does not know sports as well as I do.
He doesn't know ball. That's correct.
They were 2 years off. They ended up getting that title 2 years later, but still, that Philly team was good though. Seriously, that was peak Sixers.
That was a stacked
really
team, man. I mean,
that was peak Sixers.
Yeah,
this is a very like small sample size for me because I've only really been even like attempting to get into the NBA the last couple of years. And Mike, this is no offense. If you want to earmuff it for me, go ahead. But it would be Game 7 this year versus the Celtics. I've just like I've had such a disdain for Boston sports for so long that like because the Bruins had lost Game 7 at home to the Florida Panthers this year, and if the Sixers could go in and be another soul crushing Game 7 loss in the Garden this year, it just would have been a whole lot of fun. And who knows, could the Sixers have eliminated the Heat, gone on and seen what would have happened? You never know. You know, you got to get there. So that would be my answer. Would be Game 7 from this year's conference.
Honorable mention for me was the Sixers Hawks series, Game 7, where Ben Simmons decided that he didn't want to play basketball anymore.
Yeah, I'm convinced the Sixers still don't get past the Nuggets, but that's a mean problem.
Oh, this year, no one's getting past the Nuggets.
No, be never.
Yeah, so they, Sixers maybe would have gotten to the finals, but not. The result wouldn't have changed.
What would say that's no joke?
All right, let's go to the National Hockey League. Matt, I will start with you for this one.
Yeah, so recency bias for me, and I'm going back to 2010. I thought about taking the bubble year where the Sixers were the hot team, and everyone was like, "Hey, the Sixers are the 1 seed now." Because Flyers. Sorry, they won that 3-game series to get the 1 seed, and nothing counted, nothing mattered. It was the bubble series.
Right.
But 2010 Game 6 against the Blackhawks at home in Philly when they lost in overtime. And the infamous Pronger stealing the game-winning puck incident. But if you turn that one around, I'm pretty confident that getting off of that momentum, going Game 7 in Chicago, which was a stacked team regardless. But
oh my gosh,
let me at least go 7 games in that series and see them win in their own arena if they're going to win.
It's and still just the insane nature of that Patrick Kane goal, because it was Brizgalov was the goalie for the Flyers that run, right?
No, that was
Bob.
What was his name?
It was Leighton.
Bob.
That's right. Leighton. Yeah. Michael Leighton got hot. That's right. Yeah. Michael Leighton and Patrick Kane were the only 2 people in the Wells Fargo Center that knew that puck went in. It was one of the silliest goals I've ever seen. Yeah. And I'm watching it, and I saw Kane just start like screaming and celebrating and like telling his team to like get off the bench, and nobody had any clue like what was going on because you never saw it go in. But yeah,
and that was kind of like a team of destiny team for the Flyers. Like they were the 7th seed. They had the epic 3-0 comeback. Sorry, Mike, against Boston. Oh, you're a Caps fan. Never mind. Against Boston. And so it was just kind of, it felt like that was the Flyers' year to do that. Similar to the Phillies last season, the unexpected team that made it all the way to the dance. Can they actually do it? And I would have liked to see them get the chance to do it in Game 7.
Yeah, and like you said, winning Game 7 in Chicago is quite a tall order, but at least to get there, not have a team win it in your building. But Mikey B, what Caps game are you picking? Or series?
I will take the 2009 Eastern Conference semifinals, a 7-game series where MVP Alexander Ovechkin led the Washington Capitals against the Pittsburgh Penguins, you win a game 6 in overtime, and then you let them score 5 straight goals to start game 7.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Just got punched right in the mouth. And literally, Semyon Varlamov, through that entire series, stood on his dome. 45 saves, I think, is what he averaged in the first 6 games of that series.
Something like that.
With Washington only shooting the puck 22, 23 times. So literally, the Pittsburgh Penguins were controlling every asset of that series. And for Varlamov to do what he did to get them to game 7, kudos to him. But it's the pain that entails afterwards. Carolina beats the number 1 seed Boston Bruins in 7 games. And then Pittsburgh walks to the Stanley Cup Finals and then beats the Detroit Red Wings in 7 games. So it's bad enough that you lose to Sidney Crosby. Then you don't. Then they get the cakewalk of getting to play the 6th seed in the fucking in the Eastern Conference Finals, and then I have to watch that Canadian pompous jackass hoist Lord Stanley. God, punch me in the throat and call me Sally. Why don't you?
Okay, Sally.
I mean, whatever you're into, I'm not here to judge.
Jeez.
But yeah, that one. I still remember watching that one. Oh, look, Sean's back. Well, welcome back, Shawn.
Made it. Did I miss a sport?
Yeah,
hockey.
you missed the NBA, and now we're on hockey. So if you want to circle back to the NBA, you can. If not, you can go straight to the Flyers.
I'd love to circle back to the NBA because the correct answer is probably Kawhi Leonard's 9 bounces to win it. That's probably the correct
Was
answer.
Matt's answer.
But for me, it's when Allen Iverson and his team like overstepped their bounds and wound up in a series they didn't belong in against the LA Lakers. If they could have taken that series, arguably the next year where they got knocked out in the first round would be another great play. But I think if they were to somehow beat the Lakers that year, maybe you could have convinced Allen Iverson that like with help he could be a Jordan. He didn't have to do it himself, but that's a hard sell. Allen Iverson. But to me, like giving Allen the chance to really cement.
I've been a huge Legacy play for that.
The one game 1 and Shaq fouled out in game 2.
Could you imagine though, Matt, if they won that series against that Laker team that went 15-1 that entire playoffs and that was the only loss? Can you imagine they won that series? That's a
unbelievable.
One ring Iverson. The legacy's changed forever.
Because
also,
right now Allen Iverson is kind of, from the Philly area, like everybody knows Allen Iverson, and people remember like the hip hop guy and like great with the crossover, but like he doesn't really get a fair shake for how dynamic of a scorer he was. And if you give him that title, I think he really, and maybe he just has a long career where he doesn't mess his life up. So that for me is that one. NHL, as a Philadelphia Flyers fan, again, I don't always take the correct answer. That's both life and on the show. But as far as the correct answer, it's probably was 87. The second they played the Oilers twice in 3 years. I think it was 87 that they. It's the one where Hextall got named the MVP of the series, even though they.
I think it was 87.
They made because the first year they played them, they lost in. They lost in like 5 games. They got hammered by the Oilers, but they drug it out to 7. 87.
Yeah.
My dad was pissed. He hated Gretzky.
Not only did they take it to 7 games, but they drew a 2-man advantage early on in the game. We're up like 1-0, I think, and then wound up giving up goals to like basically the entire Hall of Fame. And it's just nonsense because they're like, but then Hextall was bested by
141 into the game.
And Messier and Curry, and I'm like, all those guys are Hall of Fame. Every one of them, like everyone on that team is in the Hall of Fame. It's literally the exact same argument as like that Laker team, like that one. But for me, it's the Blackhawks series in 2010. We had again, it's almost the same Iverson argument where like, we had no business being there. Like we got through we were just red hot at the right time. It was one of those. And there's a lot of teams that do that win the Stanley Cup. There's a lot of teams that don't really throughout the year play that great, but you get hot at the right time and you come together, and that team did, and they just fell short. I think for me that Blackhawks. I mean, that could have changed the direction of the team. I don't know which stars would have stayed or would have been important. The good news is one of them's in charge now, and hopefully that changes the face of the franchise anyway. So
Believe in Danny Briere.
that for me is the win in the NHL.
All right, there you go. Kyle Nash.
You know, and this isn't one that necessarily leads to a championship. I'm just looking for more of a, lack of a better word, respectable outing. I don't have a good reason why in the 96 Lord Stanley's Cup Series final with the Panthers and the Avalanche doing battle. Maybe it's just because Patrick Roy, yeah, I know it's pronounced Walsh, shut up. Patrick Roy was on the other side. I was cheering for Van Beesbrook hard and was pissed that not only did he lose but got swept. Can you at
Former
least
Flyer Van Beesbrook.
What's that?
He was a former Flyer.
Correct. I think the Panthers were his third team. I'm trying to remember. But punchline being, if that fourth game that went into 3 overtimes was at least 1-0 Panthers and they didn't get swept, I'd have been satisfied with that. They were already playing with house money. But the fact that Roy swept the Bees kind of pissed me off.
Well, that Roy's pretty good.
That's not the point.
He's all right. He's all right.
He's no Roy Rogers, but he's pretty good.
No, actually, Kyle, the Panthers were Van Beesbrook's second team.
Oh,
started his career with the Rangers, went to the Panthers, then went to the Flyers.
I was gonna say he played for the Flyers at one point. I remember that.
And then
it sounds like a Flyers name. I feel like Van Beesbrook
2 years
sounds
with
like
the Flyers, and then finished out his career with the Islanders, and then 2 very short seasons with the Devils.
Flyers also had a bone crusher against the Islanders, I think, earlier before that.
I believe
like
you're right.
1980. Like they had a series that they probably could have won.
I don't know.
I mean,
Two teams won
the bubble
championships
year
in the
was
80s, and we
the
lost
Islanders
3 of
too.
those series.
I mean, you're bringing up Patrick Roy and Roy Rogers and stuff. I feel like you're kind of treating me like his horse and bringing up him not being Roy Rogers. You're trying to make
I
me.
forgot Roy Rogers was an actual Cowboy. I was thinking of the burgers and the chicken place.
Yeah.
Not many of them.
My favorite stop on the way home from Philly on the turnpike.
Delicious fried chicken on the PA Turnpike. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
EJ, alleged Rangers fan. What game were you picking?
2014. Huh?
Alleged hockey fan.
Yeah. No, 2014 Stanley Cup, but specifically Game 2 of that series. 3 of those 4 losses. First off, were by 1 goal. 2 in overtime. That game was a double overtime. They went down 0-2. That seemed to ended that series. They lost in 5, but that was actually a lot closer series than people give credit for, game to game. But that Game 2 was the nail in the coffin really for that team at that point.
Mine is my runner-up was 2017 Game 7, also against the Penguins. There was far too many Game 7s and there's far too many Game 7s and Game 7s against the Penguins to pick from. But no, I actually go back to the 2008 Eastern Conference quarterfinal, where the Caps lost in Game 7. There's a pattern there with this team against the Flyers. It was the Capitals and Ovechkin's first time in the postseason. It was the year that Bruce Boudreau took over in November, and the Capitals ended up winning their division. And it was really the start of what eventually culminated in the 2018 Stanley Cup victory. But the gut punch of losing that series just absolutely sucked. I almost destroyed my room that day because it sucks. I would and not that there's no wrong answer, but the Capitals, the game that Mike picked where they just got whitewashed off the ice. I knew 6 minutes into that game that we were losing. So I was able to absorb the blow a lot easier. Like those overtime losses.
Sometimes that's much easier to take.
Yeah, the over, and that's why the 2017 Game 7 in the conference semis versus the Penguins was so close to being my answer, because that was also an overtime game.
Well, again, that for me was like the Alabama game.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Yeah, where I was just like, yeah, but I immediately dismissed that as a loss, and it doesn't hurt.
Similar to Mike's. Penguins went on to win the cup in 17, and it was just like, and that was probably the best Capitals team. And I remember like looking at my wife after that one and being like, well, it's been fun, but like we're not going to make the playoffs, or like this was the year.
You can't even hit the. Well, we'll get them next year.
No,
that was the best team.
2018 team wasn't supposed to be that team, and they ended up being that team. So what the fuck do I know? But yeah, the conference quarters against the Flyers in 08 is my answer. I would have loved to have seen what that Capitals team, who was playing on house money from mid-February on, what they could have done if they actually would have gotten that series win. Who knows?
I had to double check whether your question said it had to be my team, because I almost just picked any Penguins Cup and just took I was going to be give me any series.
Also would have been acceptable,
and just flip it.
Yeah,
just take one away from
all of them. Just take them away.
We don't need one.
Would not have been rejected by the panel.
Just take one to take Nashville Predators over the
yes.
Which, by the way, is the one I would pick if I was going to pick one to take away. Screw the Penguins for winning that series.
All right, now we move to the NFL. EJ, we'll start with you. What Giants game are you changing?
Giants.
Man, I mean, I could easily pick the Super Bowl.
I have to assign him a team because we don't want to be here that long.
Right, exactly. It's not our side anymore, man.
You can't answer.
I mean, I can easily pick Super Bowl 35, but Baltimore was the better team. But the loss that fucks with me to this day, man, and it actually was a 1 year where I was so affected and so pissed off I missed the entire playoffs rest of the year and the Super Bowl that year, only time in my life. 2000 and Kyle, fuck you. 2002 wild card game.
Mute him.
It shouldn't have even been that close.
What was it? 38-13, late third quarter. 38-13 was the.
Wait, Kyle, you didn't even need to laugh. I have you laughing.
But that fucking game, to this day, I was so fucking pissed. I missed the rest of the playoffs. I missed that Super Bowl that year. It was a Raiders-Bucks Super Bowl that year, I think. Yeah, it wasn't.
It's an okay one to miss if we're being
right,
honest.
right. But I missed. That's the only one I ever missed because I was so done with football that year.
In the words of the great Steve Mariucci, bummer. Anyways,
he was a man of many words.
I will say the Eagles loss in a way is a close second.
I thought you were going to pick that at first. Actually,
Close second.
I really did. Yeah, man. What can I say? Bummer. Yeah.
Fuck off.
All right, Kyle, what is yours?
Well, there's a particular game where Catfish Roger Craig fumbles the ball and sends another team to the Super Bowl that didn't belong there and didn't belong winning that Super Bowl either. So yeah, that's what I'm going to pick. Damn it.
So fuck me now. Fuck you to fuck me.
Sir.
That's
way
too much fucking.
A lot of fucking going on here.
All I know is I'm going to get some to Tom Brady now.
I'm just saying.
Go ahead. But
Go ahead.
You still owe Scott Norwood Christmas cards to this day.
I know. He still gets it. You kidding me?
And it's not a factor if Catfish doesn't fumble that.
Here's a good question though, quick before we start. Kyle, San Fran wins that game with New York in '90. Do they beat Buffalo also?
Yes.
Okay.
Probably.
That would have been a great Super Bowl, actually, to be honest with you. San Fran, Buffalo.
And a lot more fun to watch than the one we got.
Is it a championship game involving Buffalo?
Buffalo was the.
If it is, then yes, they lose.
But that was year one, though, too, to be fair. So, I mean, they wouldn't,
they didn't know it at the time.
Right.
But they were predestined to just lose all of their title games.
Boy, I love losing Super Bowls. Has nobody heard that acronym?
Someone in Buffalo actually spoke to a sports god and was like, for the love of God, just get me there. I guarantee that's what happened. They were just
honestly,
I'll give anything to
Giants,
just get
as
there.
a Cowboys fan, I would take that at this point.
He probably was like, just get me to the title game.
Just get me
and
there.
And then as
please.
a joke, they got them there 4 times.
That was, to me, that was Bill Belichick's
And that one
finest
fan
hour.
knows it. And he's
Those,
just like, I can't.
Kyle, real quick, Kyle, those 2 weeks against San Francisco and against Buffalo, those 2 weeks, Bill Belichick's finest hour. That
Probably.
defense fucking locked in. Those 2
Probably.
weeks.
Probably.
Montana and Kelly, wow.
Probably. This is where you got to lift all that weight. Whatever, I get it. I know that's not Belichick, but you get it.
Are you saying the Giants win against the Giants beating the Bills was probably Bill Belichick's finest hour
No, right, but also beating San Francisco
as a defensive coordinator.
Right, but
for the Giants.
but also as well the week before that beating San Francisco, holding 13 points in that game.
San Francisco's the better answer because, for one, Catfish typically doesn't fumble. There's that. Two,
Right.
Technically speaking, Belichick failed. Norwood let him off, and we let him off the hook.
That Giants team had no business being within a field goal of the
Dude,
Buffalo Bills.
they were playing a backup quarterback.
They were playing Jeff Hostetler
It
was playing the
was
game.
basically Nick Foles.
If you want to crown him, then crown their ass.
Jeff Hostetler could have been.
Don't disrespect Nick Foles like that.
Hey, Hostetler got a ring too, also. So whatever.
Jeff
By the way,
F-
Jacksonville fans paid him plenty of money. They can
did?
disrespect him all.
Yeah, there you go.
No, I'm saying, don't sit here and say that Nick Foles is Jeff Hostetler.
Oh no, he's better than Jeff
No,
Hostetler.
Jeff Hostetler didn't do
I'm not saying the narrative
in the
is very
game
similar.
what Nick Foles did in his.
The narrative
Jeff Hostetler is the Chad Henne of.
not even.
Yeah,
not even
that's
good.
a better
Not
comparison.
even that good.
Just don't mess up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say the narrative is
Like, I
similar.
guarantee you they were like, here's your game plan. And they pointed
Right.
to Lawrence Taylor and were like, just don't let him down. And Lawrence Taylor on coke, like, just stared him in the eyes. He was like, don't you turn the ball over.
To this day, I watched
Is
that.
that,
Hostetler
game.
was like, I'm not gonna
is that the
do that.
prequel to Cocaine Bear, Lawrence Taylor? Anyway.
Lawrence
it
Taylor
was the
was the
prequel to Any
cocaine
Given
bear.
Sunday.
I'm pretty sure it's based on his career.
And Kyle, to your point,
Having not seen the film, I don't know. but for
my
sure.
all-time favorite Pat Summerall sound bites from that game too. Also,
Hey, listen, you
There'll be
leave
no-
the
there'll be
golden
no-
voice Pout Summerall out of the world getting robbed by
there will be no three-peat.
Stop it. Stop it. You leave Pat Summerall out of this, you son of a
I love
bitch.
Pat
Here's a
Summerall.
line.
Quit filibustering, EJ. Kyle,
Pat
you,
Summerall lived way past that line.
you did have your answer.
Yeah, Catfish fumbling in that Giants.
Okay.
Hall of Famer.
Sorry, I
Steve
got
Harvey.
distracted by EJ.
There's a lot happening.
Mikey B.
I will start with my honorable mention, which was Carson Palmer and Chris Henry, both getting hurt in the first round matchup against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Good call.
Because that team was really, really good. I'll then go to my pick, which is the one that hurts the most. It's LVI. It's Inglewood, the one against the Rams.
That hurts more than Van Oelhoffen? Okay. I'm asking.
It does to me because when you go back and watch that game against the Rams, Aaron Donald was the best defensive player in the world.
Aaron
And he
Charles
proved-
Donald.
Yes, and he proved it on that night.
Yes.
And for a while, that patchwork together offensive line was able to do something that they hadn't been able to do basically the entire postseason, which was keep Joe Burrow on his feet. And then he has an opportunity and then gets manhandled by the best defensive tackle in football. As I watched Jamar
Fletcher
Chase
Cox
just
wasn't playing in that game.
run down the sideline.
Shit.
I see I see
Mark Chase.
Jamar Chase blowing by his corner and literally going, if he has 2 seconds to just let the ball go.
If it's not Aaron Charles Donald,
Correct.
is instead Fletcher Cox, it's a touchdown. Get it?
Yeah.
And that's why it hurts, because that one was there. That one was on the fingertips. The game against the Steelers, John Kitna came in and kept that game right to the final whistle. That hurts because Carson, you lost him for all of the next season, and you had to go through that situation, which hurts. It hurts all the momentum that you've built as an organization. But this one hurts because this was the moment, and dating back to an episode we had when we talked about Andy Reid, Patrick LaVon Mahomes II, a lot of people on this panel are sitting here saying that if he walks
go down this road again.
no, stop. If
Not a good choice.
he is the gangbusters choice to be a potential shoe-in to play in the AFC title game and or Super Bowls for the foreseeable future. You went into Arrowhead, you defeated him. You had an opportunity that may not come again because of Patrick LaVon Mahomes II.
Actually, because of Aaron Donald.
No, because if you don't get there, it's not because of Aaron Donald. I'm saying
Right.
you may not get to another Super Bowl because
That's
you have
true.
to go through Patrick LaVon Mahomes II. So you have an opportunity. That's the one that hurts because it was at your fingertips.
Yeah.
You're gonna be upset when the Chiefs sign Aaron Donald late in his career.
Can I say real quick, Mike? Even though I agree with what you're saying there, I feel like if you're even 10 years older than you are now, you might say Super Bowl 23.
No.
Bengals and
Because
Niners.
Joe Montana. It's the same reason why
they lost 2 to the Niners, right?
But the 98 yards though.
It's the same
Down
reason
4.
I didn't pick Jimmy Garoppolo and Patrick LaVon Mahomes II. It's not so much that the Niners lost that game, although
Montana.
Yeah, Montana, and Mahomes that night. And
Kyle.
John Taylor, right?
Possibly take
John Taylor.
You tip your cap. You tip your cap to the best quarterback in football, and you just go, "Yep, that guy did what he was supposed to do."
Hey, Kyle, it's John Candy. Look at John Candy.
All right, Matt. Which Eagles game are you picking?
Yeah, we're going to go back to the playoffs in the postseason after the 2010 regular season, where the Eagles lost by 5 points to the Packers after 2 missed David Akers field goals and a shoestring tackle on Deshaun Jackson that was likely a touchdown if he just keeps his balance. So then from that week, they get to play the 4-seed Seahawks in Pete Carroll's first year with Matt Hasselbeck as quarterback. And then they either get to face the Jake Cutler-led Bears or the brand new facing Matty Ryan, who is not yet Matty Ice. And then they go to a Super Bowl, apologies to my wife if you're listening, against the Steelers team that was lucky to not face the Patriots in any round in that and shouldn't have been there in the first place against Big Ben.
I can't imagine a worse Super Bowl, the Eagles versus the Steelers. I can't imagine worse.
What was
scenario.
It was the wild card round, Eagles versus Packers.
Was that the next week? Was that when Matt Hasselbeck said we want the ball and we're going to score?
No.
I
was going to say, if it's that one, sorry, I need that soundbite in my life.
No, we want the ball and we want to score is when he threw a pick 6 to Al Harris.
Yes, I'm just saying, I knew it was against Green Bay.
Which sent Green Bay to play the Eagles, which led to 4th and 26.
It was a different year.
Yeah.
Because if that was the case, I would have apologized.
That was Mike Vick too, right?
No,
that was Mike Vick. And that would have given a ring likely to your LaShawn McCoy, your Deshaun Jackson, your Jeremy Maclin, Mike Vick, like that fun era of Eagles teams that probably should have won a lot more than they did.
Yeah, we want the ball and we want to score. That was still the McNabb era back then.
Fuck that Eagles team. That was a fucking miracle in part 2.
I think it was probably that season. Yeah,
it was. Fuck you, Eagles.
All right, Shawn, what Eagles game are you picking?
Okay, well, I feel like the correct answer just happened.
That's why I left that one alone.
I feel like the number of times that Mike said the word hurts made me want to die, because I'm sitting here like the game that I should say involved Jalen Hurts, and it still hurts. Because I still think we were the better roster up and down. I still think.
Troll.
Look at Jim
I
smiling.
Can't stab you from 2,000 miles away.
Jim smiling.
I can imagine it. I can imagine it right now. I can
All
imagine
right, before
what it would be like.
Before Shawn gives his
Anyway,
answer. After Shawn does, can we all give our favorite Cowboys loss before Jim tells us?
I got plenty.
No.
The correct answer to that question is all of them.
Carry on.
Everyone. But yeah, I mean, you go top to bottom, you look at everything this past year, that's probably the right answer. But for me, it's a different game that would have involved a Steelers Super Bowl. You give me 2009. Let me double check that.
2008, I think is
NFC Championship game.
2008.
2008.
Yep.
Kurt Warner.
Listen to the Eagles fan here, making sure that
no, because they beat us week before that to go to.
There's a reason why
I
don't care.
Who's us? Which one? Which one are we talking about?
Giants, motherfucker. Thank you.
There's a reason why I don't care who bagged groceries. I don't care whose wife had cancer. I will always hate Kurt Warner, because the day that the Cardinals beat the Eagles, that to me, up to that point, was the best top to bottom roster that Andy Reid had. I thought the defense was the best defense we had put on the field to that point. and it was the best chance to win a Super Bowl. And it would have set up an Eagles-Steelers Super Bowl.
Correct.
Because the Steelers qualified for it that following week. Now, it wound up being one of the best finishes in Super Bowl history. But the fact that – and it's horrifying because every time someone shows that catch – I remember watching it. I'm like, that Santonio Holmes catch is one of the best in history.
It is.
But it should have never happened. It should have never happened. And there's a few people that year. Greg Lewis dropped a very crucial first down play that probably would have kept the ball out of Kurt Warner's hands and probably would have won the game for us. People came down on Greg Lewis, and I was like, whoa. He's Greg Lewis. Like, this isn't Terrell Owens or Randy Moss. Like, Greg, was he one of the best that we had? Yeah. Unfortunately. But that was just, I mean, it wound up being one of those years where, like, you know, if that was the year Terrell Owens was upon us, I think we'd have had a better shot. But, man, that Terrell Owens Super Bowl against the Pats is a good answer, too. But for me, it's Kurt Warner. F Kurt Warner.
So
don't you buy into the hype and what a good guy is. Is he a good guy? Yes. Does he have a great storyline? Absolutely. Is it terrible that his wife got cancer? Yes. Is she a beautiful, wonderful person? I'm sure she is. But am I allowed to hate him and his stupid family?
So
Mike, I believe you had a question.
You're still a little mad.
I do. And Kyle may not be able to get this because he's not a wrestling fan. But I really feel like your brother just pulled the Dolph Ziggler. It just should have been me promo as he was sitting here. Just fuck Kurt Warner. It should have been me.
Yeah.
Fuck his wife's cancer. It should have been me. Literally just felt like Dolph Ziggler. Ernest, stop texting right into your microphone.
What?
I mean, listen. At the end of the day, if you're going to hate on Kurt Warner, you might have seen your face stocking shelves if he was in the pharmacy because you'd be on the front of the Summer's Eve box for being a douche. Anyways.
Douche.
All right, Des caught it. Let's go.
Okay, so my answer should probably be the 1995 NFC Championship game. Fuck you, Kyle.
You can't handle the truth.
Very Switzer, though.
Fuck that muddy field. To this day, fuck that muddy field.
I believe that was
Candlestick.
Yeah, anyway, go ahead.
My answer should also probably be the 2007 NFC divisional game. Fuck you, EJ. Okay, because that would have stopped Sling Blade from being a fucking two-time Super Bowl champion.
Yeah, you would have lost to Brady, Chief. Don't even play that game with me.
It just would have kept Eli from winning a second.
Eli wouldn't be you missed the punchline, Kyle. Sling Blade wouldn't be a two-time Super Bowl champion if the Cowboys beat the Giants that year.
And all we'd be talking about is EJ's boyfriend instead, and I don't mean Eli.
Yeah, but that would have also made you angrier when Brady won another one, so maybe it would have been okay.
Sorry, Jim, that was good.
If
was
we
good,
don't
Jim.
have Zeke under center on the last snap of the game.
You know
what? No, I'm glad that's my last memory of that guy as the running back for my team.
Could come
So you
back.
don't want him
He's not
back? You
signed
don't
yet,
want him back,
Jim.
huh?
I don't want him back.
Oh,
There's so much misery where all you guys see is me.
27 years of misery.
The answer for me, and it is multi-layered. Mike was correct. Is the 2015 divisional game against Green Bay?
When Des
First
dropped
off,
it.
it was a goddamn catch. Okay, done out of the question. It was a catch. It was a catch. Stop it. It was a catch. It was a catch. Stop it. Knock it off. It was a catch. Anyway,
he wasn't juggling it at all. That was a catch.
It was a catch.
Ground can't cause a fumble.
But there are so many more reasons beyond just the Cowboy. I mean, fuck Aaron Rodgers, fuck the Packers, fuck Mason Crosby. Fuck.
There you go. Be careful, though. Oh, wait, you don't have kids. No one can stalk you. I was cursing out Kurt Warner, and I had a 3-year-old walk in.
Yeah, I don't have to worry about that. Secondly, I don't have to hear the insufferable fan base that I am a fan of the team bitch and moan for the last 7 years, 8 years about Des caught. Let it go. Okay. Let it go. Like I every time the Cowboys lose, I don't have to go back and go, well, Des caught
It wound up being a trap for fans. It did.
Like, who gives a fuck? It was 6 years
exciting.
ago. Why are you still talking about it?
Let it go, man.
It was one in a long line of.
As the man that just cursed out Kurt Warner.
But it was just another one in the long line of games that we should have won. You know, but so not only do we beat the Packers, not only do they move to a conference championship game for the first time since '96, but I don't have to listen to my own fan base clown themselves out for 8 consecutive years and counting by continuing to bring it up. And every time there is a catch review, Cowboys fans are, oh, well, Des didn't catch it. Shut up. It's done. It's gone. It's over. Move on with our lives. We have much bigger problems now.
Standing down Meredith wasn't a catch. We know that for a fact, though.
Where does Tony where does Tony Romo on the extra point rank on your?
Oh,
not trying to peel back like layers here. Genuine question as a Cowboy fan. I truly want to know where that sits on your.
Let me.
What are you talking about, Mike?
That one.
Oh, you
that one.
Wow.
There he is.
Wow.
That was 2006.
2006. Yep.
It's like we had that set up, but we didn't have that set up.
Yeah, like it sucked. Like obviously, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like it didn't. But when I'm looking at that,
when you're looking at this,
yeah, when I'm looking at that postseason. So if Dallas wins that game,
I remember creating a fake Madden cover that had that on the cover.
They like
like it was like the next year's Madden, but it was just totally.
But Dallas would have moved on. They would have played New Orleans. I don't know if they beat New Orleans. They probably don't beat Chicago. Like it's one of those fucking.
That was the weekend of that year, actually. To be honest with you,
It was. At the end of the day, they would have gotten crushed in the Super Bowl, but yeah.
To the Colts.
There's.
I was gonna say, who would have they played? Peyton.
Colts. Yep.
Peyton.
Yeah,
Williams,
that was the Colts championship. So like, I don't think that Cowboys team, being that it was Romo's first year, I don't think that team, if they win that game, goes on to win the Super Bowl. So like, yeah, I certainly would have liked to beat Seattle, in Seattle.
Yeah.
And not have that memory of Tony Romo, but Tony Romo went on to be, in my opinion, the best quarterback that's played for the Dallas Cowboys. So like that moment doesn't ruin his career.
Jim, there's a few quarterbacks that have won multiple rings with that team.
No, I'm just making sure I heard that right. I'm not mad at it.
Yeah.
Just okay.
Just think, Troy Aikman, obviously very good. 3 Super Bowls.
Buddy.
Roger Staubach, 2 Super Bowls.
I'm on the Troy Aikman is overrated train, and you have more than one Hall of Fame quarterback, in my opinion, that is overrated as hell. If you want to pick Romo, I am down.
Yeah, no. When you
Romo's
look at
the better
teams
quarterback and the better commentator.
That is also
accurate.
True. But when you look at the teams that when you look at the teams Aikman had versus the teams that Romo didn't have.
Yep.
Absolutely true.
Yeah, I mean, what Romo did with very little, especially on the defensive side of the ball, because there's so many times that people talk about, well, Romo couldn't get it done on the final drive, but they forget to look at like the second to last drive, third to last drive, and fourth to last drive that he led them to scoring drives, and the defense let the other team just walk their ass back down the field.
Jim, you'll remember this. What's the final score against Peyton Manning where it was like 40-something?
Oh, it was
51-48
to 55 or
51-48. And that's the game that I kept telling you, Kyle, years back, defined his career. And because like he had a perfect game. He threw the only one pick in that game, the one pick, he gets blamed for the fucking loss.
I mean, I don't know why I'm breaking in. EJ's going to make my point. So there you go.
Another one. The last game at the old Texas Stadium was against the Ravens.
Yeah, I remember that game. Thursday night.
Romo leads them down, takes the lead. First play of the next drive, Ray Rice goes, I think, 72 yards. for a touchdown. Romo gets the ball back now with like, I don't know, it's like 156 left.
I do remember this.
Takes him down, scores again. Very first play of the next drive. Ray Rice, 76 yards back the other way.
I have a Ray
here
Rice
going-
joke, but I'll tell it off air.
No,
And
sir.
I'm sitting here going,
Is it better Herbert the pervert?
like, why?
Yes.
Like why? And again, that was another one where people were like, see, Romo couldn't win it when it mattered. I'm like,
Exactly.
did you see what just happened here?
Jim, everything you say you're correct on. Best quarterback ever.
And like I wish for Tony Romo that he would have the defense, if he would have ever had the defense in his career that the Cowboys even have now. Like, just that was like such a big missing piece, because the offensive pieces were there. Obviously, those Cowboys teams with him, they put up a ton of points, but they couldn't keep the other team from scoring. That was the biggest issue.
Yeah, your one defensive player, Lee, couldn't stay on the damn field, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I would love to change the game in Seattle, but Dez Caught It is just such an obnoxious siren song for the fucking Cowboys fans that drive me insane. That
can I change one play of a game?
Sure.
The non-pass interference call in that Rams Saints game. I don't necessarily know that the Saints would have actually scored in the red zone, but the one where Bradley Roby literally like tackles him and like stands over him before the ball is like.
I'll take the pass interference call in the last Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Homer.
A handful of jerseys.
Homer.
I'm going for something my team wasn't even involved in, but that call is so bad, like egregiously bad. Just as a
You
football
say Homer all
fan.
you want, but if I get that call overturned, then it hurts my whole argument from the previous episode that we aired where I said that Andy Reid's one of the greatest of all time.
And if Aaron Charles,
true.
If I win this
Donald
Super Bowl,
falls
then I
over,
lose an Andy Reid and I make myself look dumber, which is hard to do.
Well, it depends how many beers you get in you. Anything else, gentlemen? Anything else before we close this one up?
We straight.
Rocco Mediate not beating Tiger in the playoff.
Ooh, good one.
Not bad.
That's all I got.
Tiger's ex-wife missing with the 5-iron. That would be a good one. Oh, come on.
And I thought my joke was bad.
Too soon? My bad.
That's
all right.
rough.
Well, that's where we close the off season. I think that's the perfect way to close the off season. And we will be back live next week. We will have our college football preview spectacular, and we will look ahead to week 1 in the college football season. We'll predict our conference champions, our college football playoff Heisman Trophy winner, and of course, the playoff national champion. And we'll be off and running into yet another season of the Huddle Up podcast. So make sure you are subscribed, if you are not already, to our YouTube channel and our podcast on all podcast platforms. You can also make sure you are following us on all of our social media at Huddle Up Podcast, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. And I'll probably going to try to do a better job at getting some of those TikToks up during this season from our live shows. And you can get our merchandise over at tpublic.com. Until next week, again, pay attention to our social media for the broadcast details, but we'll be back live beginning next week. Until then, stay safe, stay smart, and go for the win.